Hey everybody, Omar here, the Knife Shark Guy, and I am back with another fun-filled video for you. And today I wanted to go over 4 of my favorite production knives that I own. When you get into the world of customs, you kind of close the door on production knives, and you're pretty much not interested in buying anymore. Your interests have moved on. You're doing... you're basically moving forward in your hobby, and that's pretty much what I've done here. I've made the decision to choose 4 from my favorite companies that I've been purchasing with over the years, and have sold off all of my other ones that I have owned from each of these 4 companies, and each one of these I've actually just decided to keep, and the rest I've sold off. So let's just go ahead and get right into this. So the first one is a limited edition knife by Kershaw. This is the Kershaw bare knuckle knife. This knife originally came in Sandvik 14C28N. They've now bumped it up for this limited edition into M390 with the black wash blade, carbon fiber scales. And what we have here is a sub-frame lock. Basically, they cut out a portion of the handle and they create this sub-frame lock where they screw the sub-frame lock piece into the handle of the knife, which will be all the way down in here and to the end, as opposed to a full frame lock where they cut out the entire portion of the handle for the opening and closing of the knife. So in this case, this is the subframe lock. Really great economical design, I assume. It would be a lot cheaper to do a subframe lock than a full frame lock. But in any case, the knife is incredible. I chose this knife because it was incredibly light. It had a high-end steel on it, which I thought was absolutely crazy because for the longest time, Kershaw did not put out knives with high-end steels, which is the reason why ZT came out in 2012, was to give people a sense for that market of high-end blades. And now that ZT has now picked up momentum, they've changed all of their steels to 20 CV instead of having a variety of different high-end steels. Why they did that, I don't know. But in any case, we have an M390 blade on this Kershaw bare knuckle knife. I really, really love this one. Really glad I picked it up because you can't get it anymore. On the secondary market, the price for this knife, I have seen the price of this knife go up and up and up and up. The original price for this, I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think it was like $125. Now it goes all the way up to $249 to even as high, I've seen it as high as $300 on the secondary market on eBay for this piece here. So this is definitely, if you get a hold of one of these, yeah, definitely hang on to it. Or if you want to sell it, you can sell it for a pretty high price, especially if the knife is not used. Second piece that I've chosen in my collection for the final piece of my production knives is the ZT-0562. This is pretty much the staple of all knives at this point. This is the image that's ingrained in most people's minds when they go for a high-end knife. This is the end-all knife, in my opinion. Of course, I got one with a different incarnation. First of all, my version of the knife has an LMAX blade on it as opposed to the CB20. I've got these carbon fiber scales that were custom, which I purchased off of eBay, and we have the blue screw accents on it, giving it a different look. Fantastic frame lock knife. Like I said, all the accents, I have a blue anodization. I figured if I was going to have this knife and keep it in my collection, I want it to be different than the regular version of the knife. This knife actually, not only did it do an upgrade as far as aesthetics, but the internals were also upgraded. I have put on here ceramic ball bearings on this knife as opposed to stainless steel. So it's got a ceramic caged bearing system inside of this knife, which I put in myself. I just thought it'd be kind of a nice touch to it. And this knife actually still gets used quite a bit in my collection. As you guys can see, it's, you know, fairly used. I always seem to go back to this heavy-duty knife whenever I have some serious cutting to do around the house, or like around, you know, wherever I happen to be. If I know I'm going to be out and about, I'll usually carry this as opposed to one of my customs, just because it's always a great knife to have and to own. Table price on this knife hasn't changed. It's because you can still get the knife. This not this version of the knife, but the regular version of the knife. The knife is usually goes for right around $240 anywhere, whether you're doing it on there. In fact, there wasn't even really a secondary market for this knife, just because the knife is still around and it's considered a staple in the zero tolerance lineup. This knife is probably never ever going to be going away. There are certain knives that knife companies decide to keep forever and ever and ever. And I think this Rick Hinderer design, the 0562, is the one that they've decided should be the, I guess, the signature knife for their company. So hats off to Rick Hinderer for that, because he really did collaborate very well with zero tolerance on this. Everything from the ergos to the blade was very well thought out. It's pretty much a home run piece as far as I'm concerned. 0562. Next knife is Discontinued. Unfortunately, I thought that this knife was actually going to be to Spyderco what this knife was to zero tolerance. As it turns out, the knife, which I thought was going to be this knife for Spyderco, turned out not to be this knife. It actually turned out to be the Paramilitary, which I do not own in my collection. And I'm probably not going to own it, just for the simple fact that it never really appealed to me. When I saw the Spyderco Swish Bowie, and I got a chance to purchase one when it was still, you know, not discontinued, I quickly purchased it and just fell in love with it. I actually bought the knife twice. You know, I don't know if you guys have seen that video with Nick Shabazz where he talked about buying it twice, but I did the same thing. I bought the knife, and then got tired of it and then sold it all up and realized what a dumb idea that was. So I bought it again. Then the second time that I purchased it, I had it Cerakoted by Josh at Razor's Edge Knives, Razor Edge Knives on Instagram. He did this one, Cerakoted it for me, and it turned out absolutely beautiful. I got the gold and black and gold accents. So we have screws are black on this side with the gold titanium on the front side, and then all black titanium for the lock side with the gold screws. That was basically my idea to do that, and it turned out absolutely awesome. And then I had him take the back spacer and made it silver instead of gray. So we have a sort of a gold, silver, black look to it, which I thought was fantastic. This knife gets used quite a bit, just as much as this one does. When I'm out there, and if I'm out and about and I feel like I want to carry a production knife for that day, I'll choose one of these four that you see in front of you. Finally, the last one. Well, actually, and obviously this knife has been really well talked about by just about everybody in the knife community. They're still talking about it, even after they discontinued this knife. I believe they discontinued it. I think I'm going to say 2017 is when they discontinued this knife. It might be even earlier. But yeah, now on the secondary market, this knife has just gone through the roof. I think I've seen this knife go for like $500 on eBay, even higher. So it's a little bit, you know, What we're doing on the secondary markets with these knives, I don't know. But they seem to be holding knives like these two hostage by the knife buying public. And it's wrong, but, you know, what are you going to do? Basically, there's no one out there that's going to predict what knife is going to wind up next on the hold for hostage list. But these two definitely fell into that. Soon to be joined by my fourth knife on the list. This is the Benchmade Anthem, and this knife is newly discontinued. They just discontinued it. I believe they discontinued it back in November of 2020. You can still get one of these in stores now, I believe. Whatever stores are currently still selling it, you can get this piece if you want to. I chose this knife, obviously, for the coil spring feature and access lock design on the knife. It was really a new take on the access lock. As you guys know, Benchmade is very famous for their access lock, and the access lock is basically a system whereby there would be a spring inside the pivot of the knife that would allow you to open and close the knife one-handed very easily. This one, however, is an upgraded version of that concept. What they've done here is that they have taken the Omega spring and they have replaced it with the coil spring, keeping the access lock concept in place. So here's what they've done. If I open up the knife, you can see that there is a spring inside. I don't know if you can see it, but there's actually a spring on the inside of the knife. There it is, right there. Maybe I can hold up the light to it a little bit better. You guys can see it. But yeah, there you go. So there's a spring inside the knife that's attached and adhered to the back of the knife with these two screws. And what they've done is they have combined the access lock with the coil spring. Because keep in mind, in the original version of this concept, the coil spring is not there. What they've done in the original version was they put a coil spring inside of the access lock, basically inside the pivot, sort of like a fork, I guess. Coil spring inside of the pivot of the knife in the original one, where you would push back on it and then the knife would close. Problem with that was it wasn't as reliable, I don't think, as the coil spring feature. A lot of us actually thought that the coil spring feature would pave way for a bunch of other knives that would have the coil spring in it as well. As it turned out, it didn't turn out that way. It might be because it was not economically the best idea for Benchmade to do that. So this would be the only knife with the coil spring feature. But basically, the improvement on it is simply this. With the coil spring, you can either loosen or tighten the pivot, which would allow you to have a nice smooth action, but the blade would have a little bit of blade play in it. Or you can tighten it up on the Omega spring version, and the action wouldn't be as smooth as it is here. But with the coil spring, it allows the Omega spring and the coil spring, the access lock and the coil spring to work together in unison, so that you can have the nice smooth action that you want, have the knife be perfectly centered as it is here, and not have to worry about any blade play. So that was the whole concept, and I think a lot of people thought that there would be a string of knives that would be with the coil spring and access lock on it. My version of the knife, I replaced the clip that came with this knife, which is probably the main reason why I'm never going to get rid of this knife, just because of that. But I replaced the original clip, which looked exactly like the chevron pattern on the knife. It wasn't as functional, so I got rid of it and asked a knife maker slash pocket clip guru, Adam Purvis, to make me a Timascus pocket clip for it, and this pocket clip seems to function 10 times better than the original clip that was on the knife. Another reason why the knife is incredibly awesome, this is also the only integral piece that I own in my entire collection. So for that reason alone, I had to have this knife. So basically an integral piece is just one big gigantic hunk of metal rather than two pieces of metal screwed together to create the same effect. Here it's just one enclosed hunk of metal. And again, this is the only integral knife that I own in my entire collection. I don't even own any South African customs with this setup where it's all one piece. So definitely a stellar piece from Benchmade, considering that Benchmade really is a knife company that sees knives more as a tool rather than art. So that left a lot of knife collectors kind of not drawn to them as they were to these other three companies. However, they do have a few knives that became signature. The Anthem is one of them. Benchmade Bug Out is the other. The Crooked River. So they've got some really nice offerings, Benchmade. But I think this is the one that I chose overall out of everything in their lineup. And again, to close out this video, these are the four that I think are the best of the best that the production world has to offer me as a consumer. For all of you guys out there, it might be something completely different, but I've chosen these four just because aesthetically they appeal to me, and the usage of the knife I found really helpful in just about in all my cutting needs. I have not found anything in other words, for my needs, aesthetically, cutting ability, everyday use, they hit 5 stars across the board for me personally. Again, for you guys, it might be something different, but these are the 4 knives I've chosen for just about everything, because, even just the ergos on the knife for all of these on the table are perfect for me. So it just hit a home run on everything as far as what a cutting tool would be for myself. So again, this is Omar the Knife Shark Guy signing off, hoping you'll find one of these 4 in your collection to be a stellar choice for you. Thank you so much for watching, and this is Omar the Knife Shark Guy signing off, saying thank you so much for watching, and have a great evening.